Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going on a journey, but not into outer space. We're going to explore the final frontier of your very own mind. We're going to unpack a really fascinating mental model that helps map the unseen forces that govern your emotions. You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. One minute, you're feeling totally fine, and the next, you're just hit by this wave of sadness or a sudden flash of anger, and it seems to come from absolutely nowhere. Why does that happen? Where did these powerful feelings even come from? Well, according to Dr. Michael Lukens, the answer isn't really about chemistry. It's about physics. Yeah, you heard me right. In his work, The Physics of Emotioning, he lays out this whole new way of understanding our inner world. Okay, let's dive into this. So, our first stop is the core metaphor for this whole explainer, thinking of your mind as your inner solar system. This is all about charting the invisible forces that are constantly pulling and pushing inside your head. Dr. Lukens asks us to imagine our mind as this vast personal solar system. And it's not some empty space waiting for things to happen. No, it's already a bustling cosmos filled with memories, ideas, and values, all interacting with each other in complex ways. So in this model, everything inside your mind has a celestial counterpart. Your core values, things like love or your sense of identity, those are the massive suns at the center holding everything together. Major life events, well, those are planets with some serious gravity. Traumas can be like black holes, warping everything that gets near them. Even small things, like a favorite song, are like little asteroids floating around. And here's the key. Every single one of these objects has what's called latent energy, the potential to affect you. Okay, so if your mind is a solar system, then what are the rules? What's the physics that governs this whole inner cosmos? Well, that brings us to our second big idea, the gravity of meaning. Get this, Dr. Lukens actually proposes a fundamental law for this system. E is a function of M times A. In plain English, the emotion you feel is a function of a meaning's mass multiplied by its proximity, or what he calls its salience. So let's break down those two variables. First up, you've got meaning mass, or M. Just think of this like the actual physical mass of a planet. A core value, like the sun of your family, has enormous mass. A painful memory, maybe a black hole, has incredible density. The bigger the mass, the more powerful its gravitational pull, and it can affect you even when it feels like it's a million miles away. The second variable is proximity, or salience, and this part is absolutely key. We're not talking about physical distance. This is all about mental closeness. It's about where your attention is at any given moment. You can take a distant memory and bring it right up close just by thinking about it, and in doing so, you massively increase its immediate gravitational pull on how you feel. Okay, so we've got a solar system of meanings that's all governed by mass and proximity. So how does this actually explain those out-of-the-blue mood swings? Well, this is what happens when worlds collide and that potential emotion suddenly becomes a very active feeling. The central concept here is something Dr. Lukens calls latent emotioning. It's the idea that every single meaning in your solar system carries a potential emotional force. It's just lying in wait, dormant, until your focus travels close enough for you to get caught in its gravitational field. Here's how to think about the difference. A latent emotion is like a planet that's way off in the distance. It might create a sort of background feeling tone, but you don't actively feel its pull day to day. But when that emotion becomes kinetic, that's because your mind has moved into its orbit. And all of a sudden, that potential energy becomes an active force. And that's what creates that out-of-the-blue mood. Let's think about how a trigger works using this model. Say a painful memory of a loss is a distant but massive planet. For most of the year, it's way out there. But then, an anniversary shows up on the calendar. Your mental orbit has just brought you closer to that massive planet. And bam, suddenly you're in its gravitational pull, feeling the full force of that sadness again. The planet didn't change. Your proximity did. This leads to a really powerful insight from the source material. You know that saying, time heals all wounds? Well, according to this model, that's not quite right. Time creates distance. The painful planet recedes into the background, and that creates the illusion that it's gone or that you've healed. But its mass hasn't changed one bit. It's still there, with all its potential gravity, just waiting for you to travel close again. Now, all of this might seem pretty straightforward, almost like a simple physics problem. But there's a complication, a kind of ghost in the machine, and that is the storyteller in your head. The voice that creates a conflict between what is real and what we tell ourselves is real. I mean, it's a fair question, right? If our minds are filled with these massive planets and black holes of trauma and meaning, why don't we constantly being yanked around, just completely overwhelmed by all these gravitational forces? The answer is that we have two things going on at once. First, there's the system. That's your organic, authentic reality. It's the pure physics of your inner cosmos. You could call it the news. But then you have the observer. That's the storyteller, the narrator, the part of you that reports on what's happening. This is the spin doctor. The system can't lie. It just is what it is. But the observer, oh, the observer can, and very often does, lie to avoid pain. And the observer has a whole toolkit of defenses, all of which fit our solar system metaphor perfectly. Repression? That's when your observer just pretends a painful planet doesn't even exist. Denial is looking right at it but insisting it has no gravity. And distraction? That's when the observer deliberately moves a different, more pleasant planet in front of the painful one, creating an eclipse to block its pull for just a little while. All of this, the latent emotions and the observer's attempts to hide them, it all leads to our final and maybe most crucial point. This is all about our unfinished business and how all those unresolved issues continue to shape your inner world, whether you realize it or not. Dr. Lukens calls these unresolved issues incompletions. These are experiences that were never fully processed, and so they linger in your system like rogue planets or unseen black holes. Even when they're latent, far off in the background, their massive gravity continues to warp the very fabric of your inner space, influencing the orbits of everything else. So what's the big takeaway here? It's this. Your observer might try to create a different, sanitized map of your solar system, one without the painful planets or black holes. But the system knows the truth. The gravity is still there. So to truly navigate your inner world and understand why you feel what you feel, you need an authentic map. You just can't plot a course through your life if the map you're using is a lie. And that leaves us with one final thought to reflect on. Take a moment to look at your own inner solar system. What are the suns, the planets, the asteroids orbiting in there? And more importantly, what unseen planets, lying latent in the background, might be shaping the gravity of your life right now?